Welcome to the Soul Tribe Podcast. The Soul Tribe Podcast was created to help you navigate through the world of spirituality, wellness, and self-development in an easy, grounded, and relatable way. We break down everything from the Akashic Records, manifesting, spirituality, and so much more. We want to help expand your boundaries and bring the spiritual world to you in a fun and easy way. Get ready to be inspired with tips, tools, and easy to digest information. Let's do this.
Hi everyone! Today we're interviewing Lindsay Schroeder. And this episode, when we recorded it, it was just so much fun, and it was really cool to get her take on the divine feminine and like the feminine and masculine energy, which was something that I had my own experience with, but I didn't really have details about how it works or how important it is to have those two and have them balanced. So it was really cool to hear her stories and hear her talk about it. But also Lindsay had so much more to share. It was really enlightening to speak to her, hear about her stories working with other women, her own personal, story and getting into this work. But also she knows a lot. Like, she has so many different aspects of her practice. She has her own practice. So she's a coach. She does mindset work. She works with the moon and the lunar phases. She works with beliefs, manifestation, EFT, NLP. She knows about crystal work. She does a lot of healing circles with other women, and they get together and they work on their things together and they use their own energy. And so she does meditative practices, and she creates these rituals for people depending on what you're looking to work on or how to get better. But we go through so many different things about her and her background. And about what she's, how she works on the aura, how her intuitive side is the thing she uses the most in her practice. It was amazing. You have to listen to it, because not only did she give us information about herself and the things that she's learned and how she works with other individuals, she even channeled information for Lorraine and I, which we were really surprised, because we were never in the interview looking to get any information or her to tap into anything, but I guess she's always kind of connected, and so she also received intuitive information about Lorraine and I, or us working together. So it was really cool to hear from her. It was very surprising, but also I totally, if you're looking for someone to help, get you back in balance or figure out what you want to do with your life, she's definitely someone that's on the more intuitive side and can help you tune into that and figure things out if you're somebody that's struggling to figure things out, right? So definitely give this episode a listen. I hope you guys enjoy it. We had so much fun just speaking to her and getting her take on things, and we hope to be maybe working with her soon, or discuss other possible interviews or something. She's just very magical, and it was really cool to have that moment with her. So thanks, Lindsay, for letting us interview you. And guys, I hope you all enjoy the interview. All right, we're here with Lindsay Schroeder, and we have a ton of questions to ask you. You have a bunch of things that we would want to hear about. So just to begin, can you give us a brief background to our listeners of where you are from and where you grew up, and maybe a tiny bit of what you do, because you do a lot.
Definitely. Well, I'm super excited to be here. My name is Lindsay Schroeder. I'm a spiritual wellness coach and mentor. I grew up in the burbs of Chicagoland area, and I am now back in the city of Chicago, living here, loving life in the city. It's amazing. And I do, as you mentioned, quite a bit of different things, but kind of the umbrella that it's all housed underneath is I build coaching programs or spiritual mentorship programs for women and often female entrepreneurs who are interested in shifting their mindset, reprogramming their subconscious, becoming the conscious creator of their lives, and just up-leveling their vibration in so many ways. And that expansion allows for amazing moves in their business, amazing moves in their life, more happiness, more fulfillment, achieving all of those things that we really want, but that we almost don't allow ourselves to admit we would really want if we could have absolutely anything. And they use a variety of different tools to achieve those goals.
Wow,
That's a great intro.
Yeah, yeah, that explains a lot. So I think some of the things that we've seen, and I've actually listened to a few podcasts where you were featured, and I was amazed at all the stuff that you do. And just, I think for me, what stood out most was the intuition, the intuitive work, right? Which I find really fascinating. But I think out of all the things that you do, maybe you can kind of list them or say exactly what you do. And I think people would be interested in hearing it. But and then maybe tell us what you focus most on with clients, right?
Okay. So as both of you guys have seen, I am a light worker. I'm a Reiki master. I do intuitive healing. I do intuitive reading. I work with the aura. I do a lot with lunar practices, so connecting with the moon and ritual around that. I do a lot of embodiment and breath work, a lot around limiting beliefs and like reprogramming the mind and how the subconscious works. I do manifestation work. I work with EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. I work with NLP, which is neurolinguistic programming. I love to work with crystals. I, in Chicago, lead healing circles and women's groups and moon clubs. I do a lot with meditation. I create practices, affirmations, journal prompts, rituals for people. I do a lot with sound therapy as well. Just to kind of name a few of the things that we tap into when
Wow.
working with a client.
That's so broad and so dynamic. How do you find the time? Oh my gosh, it seems because you can really cater to so many people, right? Like some people might be more pulled
Yes.
towards the more like rational side of things, and other people maybe, like you're saying, the lunar phases and the journaling and manifesting. That's so great. Do you find that the majority of your clients that you kind of work with maybe gravitate towards one, or like they have like a specific need? Does that make sense?
So several of the practices I work on with pretty much everybody. Say, for instance, mindset. That's such a large practice that, like, with every client, we need some sort of shift in mindset. Like, working with the mind and learning to control our minds is something that can never be achieved fully. Like, your mind has so many thoughts, and there's so many things that have been deeply embedded into us from growing up, from what we're seeing, the repetition of the world, that focusing on mindset, there's always a way to develop it or steer it in the direction that you want. So I work, say, for instance, with mindset with most of my clients. Now, what specific tools to help shift that, or what specific things of their mindset need to be shifted, might be different for everybody. Although there are definitely common themes, like money, for instance, is a big one for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
for that one, like, pretty much everybody could use a little tune up around your money mindset.
I agree.
Yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Which one did you like? Which one was the go-to tool that got you started on this path?
Okay, so go to now versus kind of like what I started with when I was dipping my toe in. Meditation is still a huge part of my practice. It's kind of a place that I began. And every time I get to a new layer of healing or a new layer of, up leveling for myself, meditation's always part of it. A different type of meditation, deepening my practice, finding new nuances to meditation, or completely reworking what meditation is in my own mind has been huge for me. And then often with my clients, I really love working with EFT. I find that it makes rapid progress, it makes deep, lasting progress. And not only do I work with it, I love to teach women how to do it so that after our program together, they can use EFT, this like outline that I've showed them how to do and how to follow through on it, how to build a script, how to use the actual tapping, the different places, and how you can utilize the skill set for anything later down the road. So they're really kind of walking away not only with an active EFT script and process for an issue that they're having right now, but then they understand how to use that themselves in the future for anything else that comes up.
That's
And
amazing.
what
I've heard really
exactly
good things
is
about it.
EFT?
EFT is emotional freedom technique. So what it is it's partnering tapping on the body in specific spots, similar to like an acupressure versus an acupuncture. You're tapping on specific energy spots. And you're partnering it with specific language. So most often the way people use it, because it is customized, is you start with acknowledging maybe some things about yourself or your situation that you wish could be different. Say, for instance, if that is money, you can say, even though I've made this decision, or even though I'm currently in this much debt, or even though whatever thing you're struggling with right now, then you acknowledge that you love and you care for yourself and you forgive yourself for any of the things that brought you here or the fact that it's upsetting you, whatever kind of heavier emotion you're feeling around that. Then you use an in between phase that allows the mind to open up to other possibilities. So maybe this could be different. Maybe I could see this in a new way. And then after you go through that middle phase, you go into setting and imprinting new beliefs into your mind. So then maybe we would walk through what your abundance mindset looks, feels, and sounds like, how you want to feel about money, what new things you're going to call into your life, or maybe that's a new job, or maybe you're going to budget every week, or maybe when you spend money, you're going to thank yourself and rejoice instead of going, oh my God, I'm spending so much. Maybe you say investing instead of spending. Maybe you change what you're calling debt to my previous investments, or I'm paying back for my education, which was an investment in myself, instead of I'm paying down my debt. Then you use this tapping and this language to basically get into the subconscious and work more efficiently than only one of those things could do. And I find that it has amazing results.
Yeah, I've heard some great things about it. I've tried it myself, but I don't know if is it something you have to do consistently, like on a daily basis or a few times a day to really see the results? Or can you, like, maybe when you're going to go through a situation, let's say for me, like anxiety or a panic attack, if I know something triggers me, if I do the EFT, would that help? Or do you kind of have to program it some way, like consistently?
A couple of things with that one. So I'll address the anxiety facet of that first and foremost. So with working with anxiety specifically, something that I've energetically found is that EFT is not kind of like the inhaler to the asthma. It's not something that really helps drastically bring down the anxiety in the moment. So I find that working with breath work for that makes that kind of almost intense hit of like calm. So I work in the moment with breath work, but EFT can really help with anxiety as like an overarching theme in your life, so that you can use the script and the process of EFT to acknowledge the anxiety and how that affects you in your life, and then start to shift to new beliefs around that. But I really like to use breath work almost as if it is that inhaler in the moment that you're having an asthma flare up.
My breathwork's phenomenal. I actually started doing Kundalini, let's say probably like 2 months ago, and I'm like releasing so many emotions with it. It's so crazy.
Yes.
It's
Kundalini
amazing. I didn't realize that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
It's the
I'm
only
definitely
yoga
keeping
that
it
I
up.
practice.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
It's
It is life changing for sure.
And then to address whether or not you need to do a certain amount or repetition with EFT, it kind of is different for each person. I do find that at least in the beginning, repetition is really useful. I have definitely seen people who do one round of tapping and find that they've released or processed or shifted the thing that they needed. Typically, not deeper seated or like longer term things, at least a few days or a week of repetition, and then you might be able to go longer periods without it. And then when that comes up, or maybe when something situationally brings that back up, to do a refresher. But I find that there needs to be at least a little bit of repetition in the beginning. Although I have seen it where one time it's been amazing, and other times where people have used it for months and months for the same script and the same purpose, because it's been a deeply held limiting belief, say.
Yeah. And I think that might be similar to maybe, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, with like hypnotherapy, where you'd have to, like, I had to listen to a recording that was reinforcing something that I worked through in a therapy session. And then you kind of just start, it like incorporates at a subconscious level.
Yes.
And that was phenomenal. And I'm sure that has the same effect for sure. I definitely would love to try that with you one day.
Oh, EFT is awesome. And I
Yeah.
find that it's so, people are so able to use it. Whereas there definitely are other practices that are more complicated, more systematic, that take longer to learn. And this is just so accessible and the results are so amazing.
I love it. So I think you mentioned before that I don't know if maybe this is correct or not, but you said that like a common issue is issues with money, right? Is that the
Mhm.
most repetitive issue you see, like when women come to you, or would there be something else that you might like rank higher?
I'd say, I mean, that's a pretty big one, but that's because that's something that we feel really comfortable talking about and we feel really comfortable wanting growth in that area. Whereas sometimes some of the bigger issues are a little bit harder to say, to admit, or to name. So I find that money is just the most commonly expressed one that people bring to me because they have the language for it and because they understand it already. Whereas a lot of the other things that come up, we might not have the words for it yet. We might not fully understand. It might be under the surface, or it might be scary to admit. It might be one of those shadow aspects of self, of like, say, for instance, I'm mirroring my parents in several actions, or maybe the way that I speak. And it's something that upsets me about myself. And maybe I haven't admitted that. And that's what's been holding me back in areas. Or maybe I'm following a negative relationship pattern because I'm modeling what I grew up around. And I haven't really put those pieces together and acknowledged that that's what that is. Maybe I'm saying, oh, I really want a new relationship, or I'm really looking for my soulmate. And that deeper thing that we have to address is, okay, what's the pattern that you keep following? What do you keep creating in your life or calling up that's not serving you?
Yeah. Wow.
And if like
That's
they
amazing.
knew what like the issue was, let's say that they can pinpoint the issue that they're having,
Mm-hmm.
they can verbalize it, right?
Yeah.
Is there some sort of key piece of advice you'd be able to offer them, like just over this interview, say, do this as the first step, or maybe doing this will help you get to the next step of the issue? Is there anything you'd be able to offer and words that would help them in that path?
Are we talking specifically about money, or if someone's feeling just kind of that generic, I feel stuck, I feel ready for progress, but I'm not sure like what that next
I think I
step
feel
is for
stuck. That's what everybody at
me?
some point in their life feels stuck.
Okay.
So, for
Yeah.
example, that, yeah.
What I start with there is a really easy first piece of advice because it rolls off the tongue so nicely, but it is very hard to do often. Personal practice, starting to have that conversation with self. Because when you really think about that, most of us are not having a conversation with ourselves. We are telling ourselves to do lists. We are checking things off. We are thinking about things and processing things, but we're not actually looking inward and having conversations with ourselves about ourselves. We're thinking about our jobs and our friends and our family and all of these external things, but very rarely do we, without prompt or without guidance or support, go inward and have a deep, honest conversation with self. So when you're getting the sensation of, I'm stuck, or I know that there's more out there, I just don't know what it is, or, I have the job, I have a partner, I'm making decent money, I feel very comfortable, and I'm not as happy as I thought I was going to be. I think starting that internal conversation is my number one piece of advice for pretty much everybody when I get that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I resonate with that so much. I feel like my whole life I didn't ask myself questions, and now that I kind of are more in tune with myself, I do that, and it's still hard because it's like you have to be so honest with
Yes.
yourself, and then you trick yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, why am I feeling this way? Or why might this be happening? Or how am I feeling today? Things like I wasn't even asking myself that.
Yeah.
It was all about everybody else, all the external things, right? And that's such a good piece of advice. I love it. I love it a lot.
It uncovers so much just to start that.
Oh God, yeah. For sure.
So in that case, like maybe like something like journaling will help you get in there deep, right?
Journaling really helps with that. Potentially a meditation practice that's focused on that. Maybe having an out loud conversation, maybe pulling a card, maybe sitting in a specific ritual. It's different for different people. Sometimes, meditation isn't the number one go to, or journaling isn't the number one go to for someone. Maybe, I had a client one time that she would listen to her favorite song, and the song would tell her different things each time. She would be focusing maybe on the really positive imagery, or she would be focusing on a specific line, or she would start to visually picture different things, or she would hear only the specific background music in one part, or she would zone out and think of something. And that became her personal practice. I listened to the same song for the same amount of time. I sit calmly, I focus on my breath, I let my mind peacefully sit still, and then I allow what comes to me to stand out, just as if we were pulling, a tarot card.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
It kind of sounds like a different form of meditation.
Yeah. There's so many types of meditation. Like, I meditate while I'm washing the dishes. Like, I play one of these certain tracks, and I really just get into this deep meditative space as I'm doing this like warm repetitive motion washing dishes, because like I have to do it, so I might as well use that time for something beautiful and productive.
Wow.
My goodness, I should start doing that.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same.
Or like your
my
commute.
gosh.
I've utilized the commute for so many of my clients who have, a corporate position instead of our entrepreneurs. Like, most people have to commute. There are very few people who are like, oh yeah, I live right around the corner from where I work. So like, utilize that. Maybe you record yourself a meditation and you play that every morning. Maybe it's just 5 minutes, but you speak out loud the things that you desire and what you want to call into your life for the next week or month. And then every morning, as you start your walk or jump on the train or the bus, let that play 2 or 3 times through. Even if you're not focusing on it, you're still hearing it. It's starting to change the way you think and feel and exist, and then the decisions that you make and the actions that you take. And it's calling it into your reality.
And putting your attention on that and not on worrying about something or thinking about what's coming. It's just like, that's what you're listening to, and that's where you are. It's like you're more present, right?
Exactly. Anytime we worry, we're just attempting to manifest something that we don't want.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. You're putting time and effort picturing and envisioning and feeling the feelings of having something that you don't want. And if you can harness that skill set, the skill set that you use to worry and to overanalyze, and put that in a more productive direction, which is working with the mindset and reprogramming us. If we make that shift, then what we start to call in and experience and see in our lives is what we want instead of what we're trying to avoid.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
And we all need help with that in some way. I mean, none of us, our parents did the best job that they could, but we all in some ways need help because, some along the way we might have had some trauma with something that might seem so insignificant, yet it's affected us in some way.
For sure.
So I think everyone needs that.
Well,
for 100%.
When you're a child versus when you're an adult, the adults in our lives can make the best decisions possible, but how we process things as a child is very different than the adult mind. So maybe what was right from that adult's perspective wasn't communicated in the language that a child understands. So we also jump to strong conclusions and make intense rules all the time, but even more so when you're a child. It's not, oh, this is an example of one way this thing could go. It becomes, oh, when this happens, it always does this. It never does that. And we program these laws into our mind instead of an example of one way things could go down. Or, oh, that was my viewpoint at the time. When you're a child, you're not able to conceive of that.
Yeah. I always talk about how Lorena and I were brought up by the same parents in the same household in the same community, and we are so different, and we see life differently, we act towards life differently. Like, there's got to be something else besides how I was raised, right?
Oh, so much so.
It's like you think or you see things differently, and then that changes the rest of your future or the way things are going to evolve later on in life.
We think about all the different nuances of each person. Even if we were to just think about like let's talk what each of your astrology signs are. Just sun, moon, and rising, and then your human design, your life path number. Like, we think about all these different things that create who we are, how we see things, how we experience things. You can have the exact same experiences, but behind those eyes, how you process, how you feel, how you interpret, totally different for each person.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and your
completely.
purpose, what you're here to do, right? Like for us, that's a big thing, and we emphasize a lot of that on
Well,
the Akashic records, right? So, I mean, it's infinite. That's why we're all so unique, and we're all here to do so like different things, and and help in different ways. And I think it's important for each of us to honor that, and to not try to compare ourselves to others, because it's so easy to do nowadays. And it just is not, how is that going to help you? How is that going to benefit
right.
you? Right?
Specifically around passion and purpose, I've been doing a lot of work around that in the past year. I have to mention when purpose comes up. I have a close friend named Emily Moyer who is a purpose alignment coach, and I've done quite a bit of work with her, and she has shifted my entire understanding of purpose and passion. Her work is phenomenal. So if you guys are interested in that, I'll have to give you her information because she is so inspiring and has helped so many people around that topic, and
For
me
sure.
personally.
Yeah, that'd be
I've
amazing.
never heard of that. This is like a new
Yeah.
thing for me.
Oh my God, she's so cool. Just wait. I'll hook you guys up and you'll
Okay,
be
do
able to
that. Yeah.
like type out
Sounds
another
good. Sounds good.
page overview of all the things you want to talk to her about because she's absolutely captivating and her
Oh
work
my
is
god.
so magical.
So is she one of the people that helped you through your own blocks and struggles and whatever issues you had?
I wish I had known her back then. She's someone who I met recently, and we did that like deep, immediate friendship fall in love. And so we've done events together. I was part of her like workshop and retreat that she did in Chicago a little while ago, called The Deep. And it was amazing. I wish I had had her as a resource years and years ago, but we're creating this beautiful little collective in Chicago of practitioners and healers and just women in this work, and we're helping each other grow instead of just always serving clients. We've kind of brought all of these service providers together and allowed each other to experience our services and bring each other up and help promote each other. And sometimes when my clients need her work or her clients need my work, and we have quite a few other women in this group as well, we're just helping women find the tools and the people and whoever speaks their language to help them grow as efficiently and as easy and as gracefully as possible with a
Oh
lot of
my god,
fun.
that sounds beautiful.
Yeah, I love that.
It's like one of my favorite things that has happened to me in like the past year is meeting her and becoming a part of that group.
It's what a
Oh,
great
that's so
community. And
great.
it's like you can help more people, right? You can reach more
Oh, so
people,
many
and
more.
it's just like networks all coming together and just assisting
Mhm.
people. That's beautiful. I love that.
Because she comes from a more corporate structured world, the women that she's introduced me to are not women who would find me as quickly and are definitely not women who would reach out to me right away. They're the kind of women who would like watch my work for a while and then after trying a bunch of different things would then maybe consider it. But she has this way of using a different language, a language that I haven't spoken in so long because I'm so deep in the spiritual world and the healing world, that she's able to explain what it is that I do in a way that just makes sense to women who I'm trying to explain it to. She just like has a way with partnering people up with exactly who they need.
That's perfect. Wow. And how did you connect with her? I'm not sure if you mentioned that.
So I host a monthly get together at my home. It's called Moon Club, and it was originally started because I'm a part of Moon Club with Alexandra Roxo and Ruby Warrington, who started it. They're now
I
pivoting it
love
and turning it
Ruby.
into something else. Yes, but so they had Moon Club going for a couple of years, and they had ambassadors for their program, and I'm the Chicago ambassador. So I would host a free monthly get together, and Emily came to one. Several of the other women in this group have come to one, and then we're all kind of fans of the Almost 30 podcast. So I've met quite a few women in Chicago interested in these types of healing practices and spiritual wellness from that group. So we kind of saw each other in that group, and then she ended up coming to one of my events, and we were just like googly eyed at each other immediately. We were like, let's be best friends.
I love that. I love how
You know, when you
groups,
meet a friend and you're like, oh my God, you're going to be my person.
yeah.
Yes, yes.
That's so great. That like I've met so many people through the Almost 30. Like I found you obviously not through there. I knew of you I think from Ruby and Kimberly Wenya,
Yeah.
because I was listening to their podcast and I heard I think an interview on both of their podcasts, and I was like, wow, she sounds so amazing. But then I saw you on the Almost 30. I'm like, everyone's in here. What the heck?
And, both Ruby Lee and Kimberly Wayne are former clients of mine.
Yeah, I know, because that's how like they were talking about their experience with you, and I was like, wow, she's amazing. Like she's helped so many people. Like we need to have her on the podcast. And yeah, and then I saw you pop up because we were thinking of like interviewing people, and your name popped. I'm like, there she is. I need to have her on here. Perfect timing.
I love our little network. It's so amazing.
Because you do mostly like women, you work with women, right? You empower women and help unblock their stuff. So that makes sense that you would be in that group, because it's like more power to women kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. It feels like, because I get a lot of feedback from people who are like, oh my God, my social media is so draining. And I'm like, that means you haven't curated your feed properly. Because when I go on social media, it's so phenomenal. It's like a boost. It's like the coffee for my aura. Everything I see is uplifting.
Yeah.
Everything I see is intentional, is conscious, is purposeful, is beautiful. And when one random thing makes it through, I unfriend, unfollow, block. Like, I have no patience for anything that's like draining or not growing me. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't things in there like shadow work or being really having honest conversations about hard topics. It's things that are growing and expanding me, not just things that are like hateful or drama or gossip. I take all of those things out of my Instagram and out of my Facebook. So it's a completely different experience for me.
I've done
So
the
Almost 30
same.
is such a bomb thing to have in your feed, because it's women helping women, women supporting women, women going to women for things that you can tell they haven't felt comfortable talking about or asking. And that's like my entire sacred container that I create for my programs. Is I want this to be a space where you can be more honest and more real and more connected with yourself than you have ever done before. And I think the Almost 30 Facebook group is a place that's really encouraging that.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. And it does feel that way a lot of times when you see comments and stuff where it's like people are spilling their hearts out and talking about these very personal things, and everyone's just supporting them. It's like you don't find that a lot. It's hard to find that, and it feels so welcoming and so like safe, you know?
Yes. And I believe that that's the way it naturally would be if we allowed it. It's so crazy to me that it seems like it's more socially acceptable for you to troll someone than for you to empower and uplift someone. Like, if someone bumps into you when you're getting on the train or something, it's very common for people to exchange negative words to each other. But why does it feel so awkward to tell some random person, hey, your hair looks really nice, or oh my God, I love that sweater?
Oh, that's so true.
Have you done more in your life? I'm gonna guess it's like, oh, hey, you stepped on me, or like giving someone a dirty look. But it's so uncomfortable for us to like reach out to a stranger and say something complimentary. Why have we trained our society like that, when naturally, if you put us, especially women, in a container, we will naturally lift and empower and like do that beautiful work.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I feel like we need to support each other.
So much
so much, and help each other heal. I think that's also that what I see in the group is the healing. You're healing through telling your story and being real. And I think, like you were saying before, the healing starts when you're actually really real with yourself, when you're honest and you lay everything out on the table, and you're just like, okay, this is where I'm at, and I need help with this. And you can actually, reach out to someone like you and get help, or get a healing session, or do something. But unless you find where you're at or understand where you're at, it's going to be very hard to heal,
Yeah. And realizing that just because you're acknowledging that, the way you think or something that you've done or something that you've said is not how you would like to respond, think, or feel, it doesn't make you bad or wrong or unsavable or unworthy. It's just you acknowledging where you're at so that you can grow. Like we were saying before about our parents, you do the best you can until you know better, and then you do better. So it's that, just like with EFT, the acknowledgement of the place that we're in and saying to yourself, but I still love you, but I still believe in you. And now that we know, now that we see, now we can grow. That nothing is negative, everything is a growth experience. Like there's a place for me to go from here. There's some way for me to elevate. There's some lesson that is calling me to learn. And we allow ourselves to focus on that instead of, oh, let me slap my wrist. Oh, let me berate myself. Let me tell myself these negative things. This is showing me an area of growth. In what way can I focus on that so that I get something good out of this, so that I elevate?
Yeah, that's so true. I find though, like, I don't know, because I know that there's a lot of different elements to healing, especially what we see through the Akashic records with Lucia, but a lot of things come from the past, from our cellular memory, from looking back, right? That we might not understand, and we can't link to something that's going on now. Not always, but a lot of times we can release things through that. Do you work with any like past lives and stuff like that? Is that something that comes up a lot?
It's definitely things that I see, things that I feel or sense, like in the aura, or you can tell, like sometimes when people are going through something and you see the quote unquote real explanations for it in life, and it feels so much almost as if there's deeper roots to it, where there's like something heavier underneath that's like anchoring it. Like, yes, I can see these branches and these leaves of, why this is happening for you or why this is coming up or that pattern, but you can almost feel that like underneath the deeper, like further down in their roots. That's how it typically presents to me when it's a past life feeling. A lot of the ancestral trauma I've worked with has been around birth specifically. So the trauma and, the issues around how birth has kind of been monopolized by the patriarchy and what that's done to women. And I've been healing a lot of that for myself. And then with other women, they come to me and there's this ancestral healing around birth, around women stepping fully into their power. And it's typically very connected to birth.
The Akashic records talked a lot about birth, but from like the baby's aspect, like from the baby side. And they talk about how it's actually one of the most traumatic moments for the soul because it's coming into this incarnation for the first time. And it's even worse if it was a C-section.
Yes. I actually just, my baby turns 4 weeks old today, and I free birthed.
Oh my God. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I free birthed her in my own home with like basically just myself because of that trauma.
Oh my gosh. How was that experience?
Phenomenal. Like she came into this world so peaceful, so calm, into candlelight only, into warm water with my like favorite ceremonial music being played. I was the only one to touch her for the first moments of her life. She didn't scream in the beginning. She didn't cry. She looked around and just held my finger and like stared at us and was like, oh, I'm human now. And she got to acclimate to being human in this just beautiful, energetic bubble.
That is beautiful.
That's actually normal here in Holland. They do that. They take it really seriously to do it really natural.
So that Holland was actually one of the main examples that I've used when people think that I'm a little crazy for this choice. I'm like, well, in places that have much lower infant and mother death rates like Holland, this is actually like the baseline. Like you're supposed to have a home birth in Holland unless you're deemed, medically necessary to go in. So I use that as an example all the time to help people grasp and understand and just kind of give them some fact to hold on to, because that tends to make people feel a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a mom, but I mean, I imagine the moment I do have a child that it'd be amazing to do it that way. It must be very painful, but it must be so much nicer to be in your home and know that you're kind of calmer. And, you know, if anything goes wrong, I'm sure you can get help, but it's like, you know, it's probably better for the baby for sure.
And as with everything, it's totally based off of what makes you feel better and feel calmer and feel more secured. So, you know, my sister and I had this conversation when I told her about this. Like, a hospital birth would make much more sense for my sister, because when she goes there, she feels taken care of and she feels calm and she feels like I have all the tools and support here for my best outcome. Whereas I feel the opposite. I go to a hospital and I get stressed, and I like, my breathing starts getting heavier and faster and my heart rate goes up because I don't feel safe in that place. So I made the choice that was best for me and my child. And that might not be the same for everyone, but I looked at, I would really like you to come into this world as gently, energetically, and when it comes to the aura and the energy, as possible. Like, I want to open this portal and retrieve your soul from the other side. And I want you to come into this space that I've been very intentional and ceremonial about. And it was everything and so much more than what I had hoped for.
And it is a ceremony, right? Like having a baby,
ceremony.
it should be a ceremony. I think, I'm not sure about the past, but I'm sure in the past it was more like a ritual, a ceremony, right?
Oh, yes.
For
Because it
sure.
used to be women together. Like,
Yeah.
the elder women were supporting the women having children now. And so it was much more ritualistic and ceremonial and kind of female focused. Whereas now we've unfortunately lost a lot of that.
Yeah. You mentioned the aura. Sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about
Yeah, I
that.
was like, aura.
That's exactly what I was going to ask.
Yes. You can go, Lou.
Go on.
No, you ask.
No, I was going to say, she was talking about aura, and that reminds me that we wanted to talk about aura therapy. So can you kind of explain how that works for you, or, you know, how do you do the aura therapy?
Of course. So years ago, when I was first working at a wellness facility in Chicago, they had an aura therapy machine. So it was a biofeedback machine where you would place your hand on sensors and you would get to see the image of your aura in real time. So I learned how to use this machine. Learned how to kind of give people services with this, where we would have them hold a crystal or spray, you know, a flower and gem essence around them, or ask them a question and say, answer truthfully and then answer with a lie, and allow them to see their aura react in real time. So after working with that, I started to realize that I don't necessarily need the machine to do aura therapy work. So as I started to develop my own intuitive readings and healing capabilities, you know, I taste energy very frequently. I can sometimes see it. I can almost always sense it. So starting to work with my own aura and other people's auras, that's definitely something that I include in a lot of my services now. Where, for instance, in the first session, I ask people to kind of open up and give me all their limiting beliefs, their roadblocks, anything they want to work through. And I'm tending to connect to the aura so that I can feel their reactions while they're saying things. So if there is a surface level thing that they understand and can articulate for me, I can sometimes feel in the aura that it's deeper, or that there's another facet of it, or that when they say a specific thing, I'm like, I can feel in your energy that you believe that's real, but I can sense that there's a lot more things behind that holding on to it. Like, this is the mask that the issue is wearing. So when I feel that, that instructs me to ask deeper questions in that focused topic instead of moving on to the next topic. So I do quite a bit of work with the aura and energy kind of as the litmus test for me.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Can you do that? Can you do that distance, or does it have to be someone that's like there with you physically?
Nope, I do all of my coaching programs through Zoom calls. So I have a visual. We do, you know, the picture as well as the audio, and I record all of my calls. So I actually provide my clients with the call recording, and I do a recap for them so that they can watch it over and over again. Sometimes I do meditations in there, or we'll do a journey session, or I'll offer sound therapy or healing therapy. So that way they get that recording as well and can utilize it as often as they choose. And then I do recaps for all of my clients so that they can stay 100% clicked in the entire time. So for instance, if I'm telling them, you know, oh, this breathwork practice, or oh, this Kundalini mantra, or oh, you should check out this person, they don't have to be writing that down. They don't have to worry about spellings of names or where they can find that. I put all of that into our recap when I send them their recording. And a lot of my clients do maybe one out of the 50 things that I put in that recap, but then they have all that information. So I'm giving them even more than just the coaching program time we have together. My clients will then go back and say, okay, I tried 5 of those or 10 of those things. Let me look at the other ones. And sometimes I'll even separate it like, oh, when you hit the next level, or when you're done with this, like this starts to feel really easy, here's the next step up.
That's great. Mm-hmm. I'm sure people also, like, when they process through things, they'll also resonate with different things. So that'll constantly change for sure. And I know that that's like, even with Lucia and I, we've done Akashic Records, and now we're like, you know, I'm doing Reiki now, and she's doing angelic healing. And it's like the process keeps moving, and you just want to kind of dive deeper into things and understand things in a different way, and be able to help people with different layers, I guess that would be probably.
I can feel that spiral often, and that's why I give them that progression. I'm like, okay, I can see that this is what's really going to serve you right now, but a few steps down the line, I think you're going to love this. And then I know you're going to want to get into this. And then after you've done that, you'll want this thing. So often I'll put them kind of in this successive order, and my clients will save them all into like a Google Doc and work through them after our time is up together, so that they have a roadmap of growth and expansion far beyond the 60 or 90 days.
Wow. Is that part of like your intuitive kind of spin that you put on it? Yeah, like definitely. You can see that progressing. Oh, that's perfect.
It like starts to vibrate at the same frequency as their energy. Like I can see it and feel it as like a pathway. So it's like, if you choose to go down this pathway, then I believe you're going to want and will feel aligned to these things. So depending on the choices they make, or how fast they want to work through things, or how deep they want to dive, because sometimes you can get all of this information and then you still want to sit where you are for a while. Sometimes you need to process your emotions more deeply, or you need to do, you know, that same piece of work over and over and over. But when it opens up, or when you're ready for the next step, I can often feel what they will be connected with in the future as well as the present.
So when you're like tapping into this intuitive, like it's almost like intuitive reading, right? What are you tapping into exactly, or do you not know, or is it like, I don't know, for us it's Akashic Records, or do you have like a guides that help you figure it out or connect with them?
Often it's really just connecting to that other person. The way that my intuition speaks to me is that it really does like to reach out and like look at the energy of another person and how it works. And like, I just crave understanding like how this got here, or why this is in your aura in this way, or why your energy reacts in that way. So if someone says something to me, I might sense or taste like there's a facet of this that is not aligned or not true. Whereas I can feel and sense that they're telling me the truth. It's not that they're lying, but I can taste that there's more to it. So I start to ask additional questions that I feel led to ask. And I just kind of open myself up and speak almost without thinking, so that I'm guided by intuition instead of processing in a more structured or analytical way. And then I follow those flavors or those energy hits. So maybe they talk about their mom and their dad, and then I get a very strong energetic hit when they mention their dad. So then I ask additional questions about the dad, and then I start to pull more into that. And I find that there's an experience that replays frequently for them that was centered around their father. And that's what started their issue with money mindset, where you might not necessarily link those two things up together. But maybe at one point when you were little, your dad said money doesn't grow on trees. And now you have a very defined limitation around the fact that like there's only so much money out there. Money doesn't grow on trees. And so there's a franticness about how you feel in regard to making money. And so I'll follow those energetic flares in their aura, in their energetic space, until I get to that like root feeling.
And how did you figure out that you could do that? Or was it kind of something that evolved and you started going, oh, I can somehow get this information? Or did somebody teach you?
So I originally started getting these hits when I was doing true intuitive readings, like with cards. So I was doing tarot readings and intuitive guidance cards, or I was having people, write things and look at their handwriting, or, writing a question and reading their response and doing that through their handwriting and their language choice and kind of feeling the vibrations of the words that they would choose and like in that setting. And then I started to realize that cards and writing and maybe pendulum work and all of these things are just tools to support that. My intuition is the base. So I almost don't necessarily need those tools, although they are very helpful very often.
Yeah, we actually did a whole episode about intuition because the Akashic records are we connect with guides and we channel information. It's not our information, it's the other person's information. But I think intuition's a big part of that, because if you're not an intuitive in some way, you're not allowing that information to come through. And sometimes that's happened to me before I even open someone's Akashic records. I feel called to ask them certain things that end up being very important for the reading. And that person didn't think it was important to mention maybe. And that helped me channel more information. But we found that a lot of times people would ask questions, and they still do, obviously. For example, like, I don't know what to do with this, or should I change my job? I don't know what I should do, or like, what's my purpose? And I think deep down inside, most of us have those answers. It's just we're not paying attention. Do you help people get in tune with their intuition in any way, or maybe you have some tips that you can give people? We gave a few, but I mean, everyone's different, so you might have something useful for our listeners.
A big facet of my practice is not only utilizing my intuition, but really mapping out why I said what I said, did what I did, and how you can follow that with your own intuition. So it's creating that roadmap, not just for you to get to the destination, but so you can see every right, every left turn, how we went down this way, so that you can create that for the next thing that comes up for yourself. So I'm like, do you feel the sensation when you say this thing? Or do you feel how your energy responded in this way? Or do you understand why we kept going in this direction, or why this specific tool or practice helped? And I kind of create that space for them to play in this intuitive sandbox so that they can learn how their own intuition speaks to them or presents to them. So that in the future, it's not just the things that I helped you problem solve or work through, but it's you learning your own intuitive process, so that you can say, the last time I felt like this, or it presented like this, I used meditation, or I used EFT, or I tried journaling through this. I'm going to do that again because it really worked very well for this specific topic or this area, or the way that I was feeling about this thing.
Yeah, I think that's so important for everybody to cultivate that, to listen.
Yes.
And it's like, I would say it's at the top of and it should be at the top of the toolbox. It can help guide
your
you.
own intuition is the tool. Everything else is really just like ways to work with your own intuition, because the answers are all inside each of us. Like I tell my clients all the time, like, I'm not actually going to give you any answers. I'm going to help you uncover what you already have inside yourself. And people look to you and want answers. Like you guys were just saying, do I take this job? Do I not take this job? Do I move? Do I not move? Is this my person? Is this not my person? And I don't actually answer any of those questions. I create a space for you to dig into those and experience what your own intuition is going to tell you about that. I might utilize all of my skills to show you what's happening and help you see that and understand that and pull that apart. But each one of my clients are making those decisions for themselves, because I can't answer that for you. Only you can answer that.
I'm like a huge fan of intuition, and I as an Akashic record reader, I see how people already know the answer, like you're saying, they already know the answer. They just somehow, in the case of a reading, they like just want to hear it, so they don't feel either they're making a huge mistake or they're going to fail or whatever it is. It's their fear behind it, right? So I think it's really tricky for people to kind of bring that fear down in a way and kind of go, okay, I'm going to listen to myself, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to take the leap,
Yes.
So
Intuition.
yeah, I know it's huge. I'm obsessed with the subject. And so you do this kind of is linked in a way to subconscious and negative program and reprogramming. So this is
Hmm.
also something that you use as one of your many tools.
Yeah.
Can you maybe tell the listeners why it's important to deprogram and reprogram?
Of course. So the subconscious, just like most of us have seen the picture of the iceberg that represents the mind, where you see this tiny little tip of an iceberg outside of the water, and it says, "This is your conscious mind." And then you see the huge bottom of the iceberg, and it says, "This is your unconscious mind." So we basically have a plain tape as our subconscious, the things that have imprinted into that space that are just autopilot. What happens when you're not consciously making decisions? And when you compare those two things, the conscious mind versus the unconscious mind wins out so often. It's a deeper programming, it's truly subconscious, it's just what happens. So you can do all of this conscious work, but if they're in opposition to each other, the unconscious wins out so often. So the best way to make progress visibly, quickly, deeply is by working not only with the conscious but the unconscious as well. So for instance, we'll use money as the example again. If you believe that wealthy people are greedy, even if you do all the affirmations and all the journaling, and maybe you do an altar that represents this, and you buy yourself a really nice this that makes you feel abundant, and you follow all of these action steps consciously, but you deeply believe that wealthy people are greedy, you're not going to want to be wealthy. So then you're making unconscious actions, thoughts, beliefs that steer you in the opposite direction that your conscious mind wants. They're just in opposition all the time. And you can't achieve what it is that you would really like to because of that recorded program that's playing.
Yeah, that'll completely block you for sure.
Yes.
And I do feel like all of us have some type of story with money. It's crazy, but I don't know if it's we're becoming more conscious now, and we're analyzing ourselves more, and kind of guiding ourselves more on intuition. But like even I've been kind of more inclined to look at all these shadows and stuff, and we're all, I don't know, I feel surprised at things that I'm seeing coming up. It's just so crazy how much there is in that subconscious area. It's scary to
Mm-hmm.
think that that's actually blocking us from fulfilling and
Yes.
living this life that we desire, but it's like we can't
Mm-hmm.
get it. It's like there at arm's reach, but it's not coming to us.
Mm-hmm.
And then just working with these things can help us manifest and create the life that we want, and not be afraid of it. Because for me, I think a lot of
Yes.
things that hold me back is fear of, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if it's going to be okay. I don't know if I'm going to be okay. um,
Mm-hmm.
what do you find that a lot with your clients?
Oh, fear is the root of so many issues for so many people because fear is just this thing that whispers in your ear or yells in your ear that what you want, your desires, which come from within you, which are inherently meant for you, it tells you that they're not for you. It tells you that you're not capable of them. It makes you feel bad for wanting that. It tells you that you're greedy. It tells you that you're crazy, that you can't, oh, that wouldn't work for you. It makes up excuses. It's just this huge roadblock to this beautiful life that you could have if you allowed all of those things to just naturally come to you. And one of the examples that I give my clients very often is I'll use the metaphor of, your life is like climbing a mountain. And you can buy the snazziest shoes and get an awesome new walking stick, and you can, grab a really cool water bottle and all these things that will help your journey. But if you're carrying a backpack full of rocks, I don't care how awesome your shoes are, you're not going to climb that mountain that fast. So if we can take those heavy rocks out of your back, it's going to be so much easier. And that's what these limitations and limiting beliefs and roadblocks are to you. They're these heavy ass rocks in your backpack. And I'm going to support you so that you can put them down consciously and intentionally so that you don't pick them up or replace them with different rocks.
That's
Yeah.
such a good story analogy for it. I love it.
Normally I say it with a lot more explicatives, but I did a good job of pulling them out of that explanation. I'm pretty sure the quote that most of my clients say is, "Take the fucking rocks out of your fucking backpack." And I'm like, "Yes, I do say that pretty often."
Oh man. I think for some people, it's aside from fear, speaking out of like my own experience, I've been one of those people that like, I have an urge, like you can ask Lorena, I have an urge and I jump at it and I just do it. And maybe I'll have like $2 in my pocket and I'm going to a totally different company, but I know it's going to work out and I know I'm supposed to do it. So like in the family, I'm considered the crazy one and who knows what.
It will always work out.
Yeah.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm always the crazy one. And if you listen to the people around you, they'll talk you down from doing anything and everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
So true. You have to be
And
careful what you say.
We ask people for their opinions, or we allow people to give us their opinions when they aren't often someone who's done the thing that you want to do successfully. So I
That's true.
understand wanting to get the support of someone, but also like, what are they able to, like, they haven't been there, they don't know the roadmap for that. So like, why are you trusting that over your intuition, over your gut, over your own desires? Also, I really believe that each of us can get what we want, can achieve what we want. So if you don't stand in your own way, like, each of us has the ability to figure it out, to make it work, to pivot, to try different things. To, if you really love something, if you find something that you're like, oh my God, I'm all about this, I'm so interested, I'm so invested, it's very hard for that not to work because you love it, you care about it, you're excited about it. And if we keep it fun and high vibration and playful, and if we infuse it with this zest of life, how do you fail in that then?
Oh my God, I love those words.
Yes, that made me, that have like goosebumps.
Right?
Lorena, that is a message
want to
for
find a
you.
thing that feels that way and do it and have it and be it and share it with the world, which is what we all need to be focusing on. Allow yourself to feel good more and more and more often. And once you're feeling good, your vibration is higher and you start to call more things of that high vibration in. When you expect good things to happen, good things happen more often.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. If we're in this like negative state of mind, you know, you're not vibing high and you're just, you know, everything sucks and life sucks, you know?
Yep. And once you like start to slip into that place where then you start to consider like, maybe life does suck, like maybe there is more negative, maybe this isn't going to get better, and you start to talk yourself into that, you're inviting more of that experience, because that's the vibrational law of the universe. If you believe this is what's going to happen and you are a vibrational match for it, that's what's going to happen. So it's your job to consciously shift out of that over and over and over, and realign and realign and realign, and ask for what it is that you want, and be present for what it is that you desire, and vibrate at those intentional frequencies instead of the default, which often is fear, often is lack, often is, scarcity.
Yeah, for sure. And feeling worthy of all that too. I think that's
you can't have it if you don't feel worthy of it.
Yeah, 100%. That's so true.
The universe can't give you something that you don't feel worthy of.
I'm sorry?
It's true. Yeah.
The universe can't give you something that you don't feel worthy of.
Yes.
Like, that's a big aspect of manifestation that a lot of people miss, where they're like, okay, I've told the universe what it is that I want, and I've started taking action, and then I let it go and I'm trying to surrender. And I'm like, but if you don't believe that you can have it, it can't materialize. Like, you have to start there. Like, that block has to go first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
That's the first step for sure. Oh my God,
Yep.
I love everything you just said. I feel like part of that was a message to me.
That's what I said at one point. I said, Lorena, that's a message for you.
Love
That's
that.
totally you right now.
Thank you, Lindsay. That was amazing.
Clearing out your own resistance to your desires, and also to how grandiose our desires can be, because I think that's a big one for you, is that like you can allow yourself to have like, oh, to this level, to this amount, but to really blow the top off that and be honest about how beautiful, how big, how magical could this be, and allow yourself to dream that big, and then allow yourself to believe that those things could happen, that you can have those things, that it can be that grand, and not feel bad about it.
I'm like crying. Oh, that's beautiful.
Lorena.
Oh my God. And yeah, it's just for me, it's always about the worthiness,
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Yeah. Where you
Thank
can
you.
determine like I'm worthy of this amount, but not this amount because I'm not that good or I'm not that big or I don't deserve that amount of it or that level of it or that full experience, but I could have this amount. So you're limiting what it is that you're allowing to come to yourself.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
that for sure.
Lorena, she's
Thank you.
like tapping into your intuition right now.
I love it. Thank you. That's changing the subject a little bit. I just want to, because I think this is something that I think people have asked us about, and I'm very curious about, like, the divine feminine.
Mm,
And I think there's something, I mean, your kind of history about being like tomboyish, and I think Lucia feels the same way. And I've had a lot of issues that I've had to work through as well with like Akashic records. I had like PCOS and a bunch of things
mm,
associated with like not going into that feminine side of myself.
yeah.
So I know that a lot of your work is with women. Where do you see with all this divine feminine? How do you work with that, and how do you help women kind of tap into that? And also, obviously, the masculine energy is very important because that helps us kind of do things.
Yes.
But how would you explain that to someone so they can grasp the concept? Because I'm not sure if everyone understands it fully.
So, to start, what is the divine feminine? What is the divine masculine? It's that pure vibration of feminine or masculine. It's not that you are female or are male, because we all have these vibrational aspects within us. So, divine feminine is receiving, is open, is soft, whereas you were mentioning the divine masculine is the action, the get it done, the move it forward. And so each of us has a balance that works for us. And so for me, I was overcorrecting too far masculine. So I had a lot of the ambitious, the strength, the outspoken, the assertive, the aggressive, get it done, push, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. And that worked really well for me. It was very productive. I did great at competitive things or getting a job or doing this or doing that. But there was something that I was lacking because I couldn't just sit back, open to receive, and allow things to come to me. I was always having to reach and to ask and to push and to hustle. And once I learned what my divine balance and I welcomed my own divine feminine back to the balance of who I am, I manifested easier. I softened so much and got really connected to that energetic space. And it's just allowed for even more magic in my life, in my business, in my relationships. And now I'm able to shift consciously between each of those so that in the right moments, I'm able to tap into my divine masculine or my divine feminine or blend the two of them. And just working with those has opened up so many doors for healing and so much for expansiveness for me personally and for a lot of my clients.
Yeah, it's also tapping into like your intuition, the feminine, right? Your
Yes, the
spiritual
feminine
side.
is very, very intuitive. Not saying that when you're in the divine masculine, you're not getting intuitive hits, but there's just an expansiveness that comes from that opening and receiving because you become an open channel, an open portal. Instead of pushing things through your own channel, you start to quiet and expand and open, and you allow for messages, for downloads, for those support pieces to just pop up in your energy, in your mind, in your understanding.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that. I went through like a phase where I was very like tomboyish in the sense that I was picking to do, boxing and like I
Me
was
too.
really into it. And then I was getting like really, yeah,
Yep.
really muscular. And I realized that that's when I was less connected to, because I kind of came here kind of connected in a way, right? To do other things and receive messages. That's when I was like totally not connected. The more boy things I did and more like muscly and fighting.
So it's when that pendulum shifts too far out of balance for
Yes.
you. So it's not that boxing inherently, takes us out of that balance, but it's when I'm focused on these things and I'm not allowing for balance, maybe you're boxing, but then you're also sitting in meditation for longer. Or maybe you're allowing yourself to be empathetic or intuitive in this way, or maybe you're developing your Reiki practice and you're calling that balance for yourself. And for some people, that's very, very masculine as balance. Others, it's very, very feminine. Some people, it's really down the middle. But it's, again, going back to that conversation with self and understanding of self so you know where your equilibrium is. So that when you start to shift in one direction or slip out of balance in the other direction, that you can consciously call it back with intentional things, with a specific practice or a ceremony or a ritual or a song, or you go dancing, or you do this or you do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes complete sense
I
to
do
me.
definitely see, Lou, like a correlation between you getting more connected with the Akashic records and you like softening more and like receiving.
Yeah.
Definitely, there's definitely a link there. I see it.
I'm still annoying though.
Well, no, but you're more like decided, determined. You have that masculine energy. I think it's more like, I know what I want, I'm gonna get it, I'm sure of it, like that security, that assurance. But then you're also very intuitive. You have that whole feminine side too, which is interesting. And that now the more you tap into that, the more you just receive messages like randomly. Now you're meditating and you're just channeling stuff, which makes so much
The
sense now that you
best.
say that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like she said. I'm balancing it. I'm doing things. Whereas back then, I wasn't balanced. I was just doing masculine
Yeah.
things all the time.
Yep. I can totally, like, I can feel that for you. That, like, when you partner those two things, and it can be partnered in the exact same moment of, like, maybe the way that you're speaking and the way you're presenting this information from the Akashic records is, you know what I mean, straightforward and pointed and almost has that action oriented masculinity to it, but that you have to be open and soft and willing and intuitive for it to come in. So it's coming in a feminine way, and then it's leaving in a masculine way, like how you're
Oh
expressing.
my God, this girl is so good.
That's awesome. I love it.
Holy.
Holy
It's
moly.
so, for instance, when each of
Holy
you say
moly.
things, like, I can feel those feelings. So then I can describe it because I get these instant hits of, like, oh, that's what it feels like. And it comes as either like a picture or just a deep feeling sensation or all at the same time. Like, I can hear and feel and see. And it's like these movie snapshots. And then I can describe it. And often it is very on vibration for the person who's truly experienced it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Oh my gosh. All right. I don't know if there's anything else you want to ask, Lou. I think you've given us so much information, Lindsay. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff to talk
This is
about.
so good. I think people will love all of this, and to understand what you do more. This is amazing that you're helping people this way. This is great. I love it.
I love it. Like, there's nothing better than waking up every day and enjoying what you do so much. Like, I
Oh my
absolutely
God,
love
that's amazing.
my work. Like, I wake up every day and I'm like, this is the best day ever. Because, like, what I would want to spend my free time on is what my work is.
Yeah, that's when you know that you're on the right path. That's what I was actually talking to a friend. She's like, I wake up excited to work.
Yes.
And that is a blessing. Like, that is 100% a blessing.
Yeah.
Like, I want.
It's so sad that most people don't have that.
And it's not that, like, it has to be that way for everyone, because there's definitely people who wake up and they're like, okay, this job or this career affords me what I really want to be doing. They're like, I enjoy it, I like it, it's great. Is it my end all be all passion? No, but I get to experience that in these other places. But for me, I've just found that the waking up every day and being super excited to do every little facet of my business, from what I'm going to post on social media to building the programs, to getting on calls with people, to hosting events, to even just like doing work on myself, because I know that every time I go to a healing retreat or every time I sit in meditation or up level my journaling practice or get a new piece of sound therapy and work that into my practice, everyone I work with gets to feel that ripple effect. So it's just this constant back and forth of, like, the more work I do, the more expansive my practice becomes, the more I have to offer. And I feel so good every time I'm offering and, like, helping someone else to elevate.
And you can tell through your words and like your energy that you definitely love what you do.
I love it so much.
That's so great.
Yeah, totally.
I love it. Before we end the interview, maybe you can tell all of our listeners where they can find you, contact you, and connect with you, like Instagram, all that. And then we'll also put it in the show notes, but at least you can just give a little shout out now.
Of course. So you guys can visit my website. It's ourandare.com. So OURANDARE. That's my handle on Facebook and on Instagram. So OURANDARE. And then I also have a private Facebook group. So this is a deeper container. I go into awesome live streams and beautiful topic discussions, and very similar to the Vibration and Almost 30. It's a safe space for women to ask questions, to share, to support each other. A lot of women connect in this space. So I have, friends in there that offer other services, or, are podcasters themselves, and they find guests and they find people and they find other women going through the same thing. So I really love that container that I've created on Facebook. It's a beautiful space.
That's awesome. I don't know if I'm a part of it, but I'm joining.
I will.
Yeah, definitely.
To join.
We will.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. So if we were to grab you and dump you on a deserted island, now this island has unlimited fresh water and unlimited food supply, and you can only take 3 things with you. What are these 3 things that you're taking?
3 things that I'm taking, and I'm guessing they can't be people, right?
It can be people.
It can be people? Oh, perfect. I would bring
you can do anything you want.
So I would bring my baby, my partner, and my sister. And I would only bring my sister if she could still see her husband, because I wouldn't want to steal her from her family. But in this perfect world where she's in 2 places at once, because those 3 people I could spend all of my time with and be just the happiest person.
Aww.
So if there's tons of water and tons of food, I will start a new colony with my partner and my baby and my sister.
I love it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And I'm envisioning a beautiful tropical island. So we're at the waterfall, just frolicking around and being in euphoria for however long we're stuck there for.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. That's exactly what I'm picturing when I'm asking you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Lindsay. We want to really thank you from the bottom of our hearts for coming on and talking about all these amazing topics. And hopefully maybe in the near future, we'll have you on again and talking about new things and new projects that you're going through, because I know those will come for you for sure.
Definitely. And we should try and do a session together. That would be really fun, where you guys could get in on some reading energy action, because together your energies are really fun, because they do know each other so well and play off each other so much. It's almost like each of you helps me uncover deeper things from the other one, because you know those energetic pathways so well.
That's so funny that she's saying that. I told Lorena we should start doing readings together.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
Oh my God, guys, you guys need to contact her. This girl is amazing.
Yes. Everybody book your time in with Lindsay.
It's definitely worth it. She's uncovered things for us already.
Yeah, it's insane all the stuff you channeled.
It's so much fun.
Wow, thank you.
It's so beautiful to be able to share that with people. These are things that once you hear it, you're oh my God, I do know. It resonates so intensely that you're I feel that in my body, that is a thing that is true.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. We'll definitely do that.
But thank you so much for thank you for taking your time to come and talk with us. We're so excited that, we got to speak to you. And like Lorena said, we'll definitely be in contact, and something will come down the road that will be amazing. Definitely.
Oh yes. I'm so excited.
Bye. Bye. Thank you everybody for tuning into this episode. And thank you, Lindsay, for coming on and being such an inspiration and sharing your message with everybody. It's very, very insightful and also inspirational. She even brought me to tears. I'm sure you guys already heard that, but I just want to say thank you to Lindsay, and thank you everybody for listening and tuning in. And please share this episode with anybody you think might need this information or might benefit from this information. As well, be sure to follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram handles @soul_tribe_podcast. Also be sure to follow Sia on her Instagram and also on my Instagram. We try to share different material there and put out messages as well. So we hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you, everybody.